Hey everyone, welcome back to my travel diary series in Japan. Now, if you watched the first episode of my travel diary series that I uploaded the other week, you might remember that at the end of that episode that I did mention that on this particular day, we were taking a day trip out from Osaka to Koyasan. So this day trip out to Koyasan was something that my wife had actually planned. I knew nothing about Koyasan going into this particular day, so it was all just a complete surprise to me. Now, Koyasan is in the Wakayama prefecture, so to go there from Osaka does take quite some time. It takes about close to 2 hours, I think, by train. So we started the day relatively early at about 6 a.m. and we pretty much headed straight to the train station and took the train to Hashimoto Station. Now, from Hashimoto Station, we continued the rest of the way to Koyasan on this train here, which is called the Nankai Tenku train. Now, the Nankai Tenku was a really nice train, and just so you're aware, it is fully reserved seating, and I do believe you have to book it by phone as well. I don't know if you can actually book the tickets online. However, I will leave a couple of links in the description below if anyone is interested in actually checking it out. So we took the Nankai Tenku, as I mentioned, the rest of the way to Koyasan, with the final stop actually being the end of the line at the Gokuraku-bashi station. To be honest, the scenery on the way to Koyasan on the Nankai Tenku train was absolutely incredible, and to me, that alone was worth the trip. From Gokuraku-bashi, there's also a cable car, which we took the rest of the way up the mountain. Which, now that I think about it, is actually the first time I'd ever been on a cable car. Once we got to the top of the mountain, we took a bus the rest of the way into Koyasan. Now, I believe there's also a hiking trail that you can take up the mountain instead of taking the cable car, but I'm not 100% sure where that hiking trail actually starts, but it would be really cool to do that because the greenery around this area was just absolutely amazing. Once we arrived in Koyasan, our first stop was the incredible Daimon Gate. Now, this gate was built in the Edo period and it was rebuilt in the 1700s. This would probably have to be one of my favorite gates that I've seen in Japan. All of the vibrant colors in the details were just so amazing. And it was just surrounded by so much amazing greenery, especially in this particular time of year where it's coming into autumn and all of the leaves are changing color, which to me is one of my favorite things about Japan, is all the just amazing colors during the autumn season. After visiting Daimon Gate, we headed back into town to go to this well-known shop to pick up some souvenirs for family members that didn't come to this day trip out to Koyasan. Now, unfortunately, I didn't find out until I was actually editing this footage that some of the video I took was distorted like this because of the ND filter that I was using on my camera. Luckily though, this didn't happen too much, so not much of the footage was actually ruined, which was really good. Though still very unfortunate, obviously. So the store that we stopped off at here for the souvenirs was called Kodohama Goma Tofu. So after we finished picking up a couple of gifts, we headed back out to one of the main sites of Koyasan. Which is called Kongobu-ji, the Danja Guram. Honestly, with how beautiful Koyasan was, I was so surprised that there wasn't more tourists here. We also ended up stopping off here to have a quick snack from one of the gifts that we bought in the store earlier, because we did end up buying a couple for ourselves. So Koyasan is a monastery complex which was actually founded back in 860 AD, and it's actually been an active monastery for over 1,200 years. Over time, it slowly grew into a small mountainside town, and it's actually a major site for pilgrimage, and is also a World Heritage site as well. So this here was the main shrine for Kongobu-ji, the Danjagudan. Now, unfortunately, filming was not allowed inside, which is pretty common for big shrines like this. Even small shrines, you're typically not allowed to film inside them. I really just could not get enough of all of the amazing colors of all the greenery while we were here. Koyasan was just such a beautiful place, and it's one that I highly recommend coming to. And this was only the first site of many amazing locations here. It was just a short walk from here to our next stop, which was still part of the Kongobu-ji. And before heading in, we did stop off here to wash our hands. Now, I've always been such a big fan of Japanese architecture for these older shrines and buildings. And one of the main reasons for that is carvings like these, but the ones here would have to be some of the best I think I've ever seen. They just looked so detailed, they were absolutely amazing. Now, you could also walk around inside this building, but again, filming was not allowed inside. However, at the back there was also this amazing stone garden, which was absolutely beautiful, and because it was outside, we were allowed to film out there. After this location, we did end up stopping off for a quick lunch, which was at a place called the Restaurant Yoyu. And we had this really nice set meal. And unfortunately, I didn't film too much in here because I got very distracted after I spilled soy sauce on myself on a brand new jumper that I had just worn for the very first time. Luckily, it didn't stain. Thankfully, I managed to get everything out really quickly, but yeah, that kind of distracted me and I didn't film as much indoors there as I would have liked because I did get a little bit distracted with that. After lunch, we headed to the next main site in Koyasan. Now, this was probably one of the more interesting places that I've been to in Japan, I would have to say. So the place was called Okuno-in Cemetery. So at this particular gravesite, there are many famous people here, but the interesting part about it was the fact that there was a lot of shrines here in the names of companies. Now, the reason for that is actually for people to be able to pray and pay respect to people that actually worked in those companies, rather than just an individual on their own. And it was really interesting to see some of the names that were there, and yeah, it was just a very unique place to be. Like, it's just not like anything I'd ever seen anywhere in Japan before. And this one here would have to be the one that stood out to me the most, which was a Yakult grave. I mean, you can tell quite obviously from the stone shape here, but this here is also katakana writing for Yakult. Honestly, there was so much to see in Okuno-in, and I filmed so much footage here that I just wanted to show off as much as possible. So I'm just gonna leave this playing for a little bit just to show you some of the sites that are around this amazing location, because it was just absolutely beautiful and I highly recommend coming here. I cannot stress that enough. It's just incredible. Koyasan really seems like it's probably the most unique hidden gem that I've ever been to. I honestly could not believe that there's not more tourists here because it is just so beautiful here. The further into Okuno-in that we got, the more you could tell that we were starting to get into the older shrines, because a lot of the graves out here were really heavily covered in moss, which for me personally just gives me such a strong like Studio Ghibli vibe to it, and it was just absolutely amazing. Like the air was just so fresh and it was so clean. It was just absolutely amazing. I honestly could not speak more highly for Koyasan. There's also a little gift store here at the shrine where we did stop to pick up some lucky charms, and one of which I actually keep on my desk here with me, so yeah. As you make your way through this area, it does also lead back around to another area in the town of Koyasan. Now, we did also stop off at a few small museums while we were in Koyasan, but they didn't allow filming inside, so I didn't actually film anything in there. But there was just so much to see there. It's so easy to just spend the whole day, and it was just so beautiful. It's definitely well worth the day trip. If you're ever in Osaka, I highly recommend planning a trip to Koyasan because, yeah, it was just incredible. As it started to get dark, we took the bus back to the cable car to head back down to the station. Where we then took the train roughly 2 hours back into Osaka. Once we arrived back in Osaka, it was quite late, so we did decide to stop off to look for something to get for dinner. We ended up choosing to have dinner at this place, which I believe is called Musi Veg Plus, I guess. Yeah, but the food in here was really good. I ended up getting this set meal with a spicy mayo ebi, which is prawn, and it was just so good. I mean, I personally love mayonnaise, so anything with mayo, it basically wins me over. But it was really, really good. And yeah, that was pretty much it for our day trip out to Koyasan, but it was definitely an amazing trip and one that I don't think I'll ever forget. Koyasan is definitely one of the more unique places I've ever been to. And just the fact that there was barely any tourists there as well was really surprising because it made the trip a little bit better because it was really just not crowded at all. So yeah, it's definitely a place I highly recommend planning to go to if you're ever planning to stay in Osaka. So as I did with the previous video, I'll leave a list of the locations that we actually visited in the description below, as well as those links I mentioned earlier about the Nankai Tenku train if you are interested in looking at that. So yeah, that's it for this episode of my travel diary in Japan. In the next episode, I believe it's just going to be a quick one because we just had a short day out at Osaka Castle. So yeah, hope you look forward to that. I'll see you then. Bye for now.